maybe brings us down to one thing we can pin down a bit more. And that's what in the psychological space, what is it that creates this distinction of I and other? Right. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Have you ever walked through this world with the gross assumption that there's me over here, the central character in the plot of existence, and then there's all this other kind of less important stuff bumping around out there, and hopefully it bumps in my favor and doesn't bump in my not favor, right? Have you ever made that assumption? Like isn't that how it is? You know? You mean that's not true? Peculiar, right? And so what is, I mean, that to me is the core assumption in this in the inner world, outer world conversation. And the namesake for that is ahamkara, right? Which is probably a yoga word we may be familiar with. What it literally means is the I maker. It's that mechanism in the mind space that gives us the enchantment of I. And from there, a whole lifetime unfolds, doesn't it? It's like a core seed in the psychic space.
What is it called?
Ahamkara.
Um,
Ahamkara. Yeah, the eye maker. Sometimes they use the word asmita. Baba Haridas used that a little differently than what I'm talking about now, but it's related. But we'll stick with Ahamkara for now. It's the eye maker, and it's something of a magician. It gives us the very felt, visceral impression that that whole scenario, me at the center of existence thing, is of great substance, of great substance. And its main attribute, its main superpower, if you will, is the power of boundary. Power of boundary. It's well, like that there is an in here over here and an out there over there is boundary making par excellence, or the fact that we see and it informs our senses as well. So the fact that we see distinctions in color, for example, so the blue shirt, gray shirt, right? That what in part what makes that possible is some boundary making within the mind. This is not gray, this is not blue, right? So it's deeply this ahamkara is deeply woven into the fabric of our perception, not to mention sense of identity. And in many respects, the yoga process is a process of, say, purification or dismantling or softening or dissolving the convicted grip of the ahamkar tendency. Like, what would happen if we softened the like, rigid identities? And a lot of this plays out in our unconscious. We don't even know, we're not even aware of the impact of the voice of ahamkara. I was sharing with a friend the other week. We were talking about sadhana and practice, and I've been at it for a while, a few decades, and on a daily basis. And I shared with her, I said, I think the only thing that I've learned from 32 years of daily meditation is which voice to listen to. Which voice to listen to, right? Because the ahamkara, or as we commonly call it in English, ego, is very slippery, and um, can be very deceptive as well. As you think that one thing is good and true and in our best interest,
which may or may not turn out to actually be the case. I mean, that is a very, like, if we were to unpack that, there's a lot there. Gambling, good. You know, and I'm not here to knock people's lifestyles or whatever, but there's some not so good things about gambling and other tendencies as well. That anyway, a lot of story making in the Humkar space. Yeah. So the mind, um, comes with a certain enchantment, and the Humkar is part of that, and it can either be honest or deceptive, or some combination of the above. But what does not lie to you, is your breath. I mean, there's a reason it's part of the whole lie detector machine apparatus, because if you are dishonest, it's reflected in your breath. Or if you're not well, or you're sick, or you're elated, or you're joyous, or you're depressed, or you're excited, it is reliably evident in your breathing space. And from this recognition in the yoga space, I said, I wonder what would happen if we conditioned our breath to be smooth, steady, regular, consistent, reliable, steady. Develop sensitivity in the breath space, and then shaped it in ways that were more aligned with harmony and insight and peace. I wonder what would happen, right? And so many methods and techniques are just born out of this basic understanding that the breath is um, the faithful servant of truth. The faithful servant of truth.